their life on earth too will then be seen by the damned to have been hell. This is what mortals misunderstand. They say of some temporal suffering, no future joy can ever make up for it, not knowing that heaven, once attained, will work backwards. And that's the little phrase I want to think about. Heaven works backwards and turn even that agony into a glory. And of some sinful pleasure, they say, let me just have this and I'll take the consequences, little dreaming how damnation will spread back and back into the past and contaminate the pleasure of the sin. Both processes begin even before death. The good person's past begins to change so that their forgiven sins and remembered sorrows take on the quality of heaven. The bad person's past already conforms to their badness and is filled only with that dreariness. And that is why, at the end of all things, when the sun rises here and the twilight turns to blackness down there, the blessed will say, we have never lived anywhere except in heaven. And the lost will say, we were always in hell. And both will speak truly. Somehow, heaven will work backwards. Somehow, what Jesus is doing in the cross when he leaves eternity and enters into human suffering and sin and death is allowing heaven to work backwards and to redeem even the past. And I know for us, when we really hit a hard time a few years ago, initially it felt to me like that pain, that difficulty was an interruption of my calling, and I just wanted to get past it so I could get back to normal life and back to calling. And what was really helpful was to come to realize, this hard time is my calling. It's exactly what my calling is. And my calling is to be a father precisely in this situation, even in estrangement, and to be not a pastor, but an ex-pastor, and to find a way to embrace that. That is where I find God. And that's all part of what the cross expresses in a way that nothing else could. And what looked like the ultimate interruption of Jesus' calling, what looked like the end and failure and destruction of his calling, was actually the most important and deepest part of his calling. And in some strange way, it works backwards and it brings hope even to those parts of our past that seem most hopeless.
Yeah. When you were talking right now, too, it just brings me back to the passage in John 21 that I've lived in for so many years now, where Jesus says to Peter, somebody's going to lead you to where you do not want to go. And that was certainly, Jesus said that to Peter, knowing that he had just had to do that. And with Good Friday, one of the thoughts I had is it's the kind of name we give to that day that they would never have given to it on that day. And the hope in the term Good Friday really comes from a look backwards. We think of hope as always being a future anticipation and a forward look, and a lot of it is. But there's also a kind of hope that you get in the rearview mirror when you look back and you see that in the midst of horror and unimaginable pain, where it felt all bleak to you, that there was still hope, that God was working, and that's the name Good Friday. I want to read to you just 2 paragraphs from a good friend of ours, Mark Nelson, who wrote in an article about the pieces of our lives that over time come together in hope. And he writes this about when 2 of his daughters were little, they had not yet had their third. But he talks about this in the context of hope. I am the father of 2 small children. And like most parents, I am constantly aware of the new dimensions of vulnerability opened up by having children. I am aware every day of the dozens of ways in which they can be hurt. And I am haunted by the fragility of the human life and health I see in them. I am especially haunted by the live possibility of human wickedness and cruelty, which may break in on my children despite my best efforts to see that they are cared for, loved, and protected. Most nights after they are asleep, I tiptoe into their bedroom, make the sign of the cross over there, and bless them in the words of Moses. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. I hope and pray that they will be kept safe, not even broken bones, not from the schoolyard snubs and jeers, but from crushing pain and disability, from premature death, and especially from the wicked who prey on the weak and defenselessness. And then this paragraph is the turning. Maybe my daughters will make it through this life in one piece without major suffering or loss, but I suspect they will not. If nothing else, the odds seem against it. Yet, even if the unlikely happens and both my daughters live to the ends of long, happy, and productive lives, even then it is too late. It is too late because other children of other parents have already been crushed under poverty, disease, and human wickedness. And these children are no less valuable than my own. And not just children have been crushed, but adults too. Since the beginning of human existence, countless millions have already lived lives worse than Dostoevsky's worst nightmares. And if I'm honest with myself, I have to admit, I cannot look this fact in the face for very long. And that hope beyond the confines of my small life is not enough. Hope in the face of devastation, horror, and the unimaginable things that happen. It can't be hope unless it can stand up to these things. And that's the hope in Good Friday, that what seemed to be the end of something promising was actually the beginning and the stirring of a new life that was coming forward that had the power of the kind of hope that we long for.
So a couple of other prayers for Chris Chandler to embrace this season of your life, Chris.
We love you, Chris.
Yep, we're so deeply with you. Israel Rosales, you have been through so much, but you want prayers for your son. So
just watching for you guys praying for each other too is so moving.
Yeah, so grateful to see that sense of community together. Patty, through in marriage, 28 years of your husband suffering from Parkinson's and being in long-term care and holding on to hope. We're so deeply with you. One of the books that I've mentioned several times has been so helpful to me in this season is Eleanor Stump's book, Wandering in Darkness. And she has a passage about Mary Magdalene and suffering and brokenheartedness and what Jesus brings to that. That was super powerful. And so I wanted to read this for you also. She writes, "There is a special kind of pain in watching someone whom you love in agony and being helpless to help him." And a lot of you know that, and we know that too. It is a special agony. This must have been what Mary Magdalene suffered at the death of Jesus. The Gospels report that when Jesus was crucified, she was there watching. Mary Magdalene loved Jesus enough to brave being present at his crucifixion when most of the others who had followed him had fled. And by the way, all the men had fled, only women left.
Well, that's for another episode.
I'm sure it is. His agony must have been an agony for her. Gospel stories report her both as near him and also as at some distance from him, maybe near enough to see and hear, but far enough away not to be close. At any rate, the comfort of being able to give him any comfort was not available to her. It must have been heartbreaking for her. In these circumstances, she forms a plan. She watches till he is taken down from the cross, and she marks where they put his dead body. She gathers the necessary things and waits, as she must, till the time is right and the coast is clear. Then she goes to his tomb to anoint him. If she could not comfort him in his dying, she can anoint his body after his death. It must have been her heart's desire to do so. And a lot of this book, like a lot of our lives, is about the fact that we have a heart's desire, something we hope for more than anything. How much she had her heart in that plan is shown by her reaction to its failure. When she came to the tomb and found his body missing, she wept hard. And in all of the Gospels, an angel or angels come to her. And Eleanor writes, the angel's message doesn't help her. She doesn't cheer up. There is no other biblical story in which angelic visits have so little impact on the person being visited. In her brokenheartedness over not being able to anoint the body of Jesus, Mary Magdalene brushes off even angels. And then Jesus appears to her. To her, first of all the people close to him, before the apostles, before his family, before his mother. Mary, he says to her. And she recognizes him in the saying of her name. In that electric moment, in that presence of each to the other, her weeping ends. Her heartbreak at his death is over, and her heart's desire to anoint him, so pain-filled in its formulation, falls away. What she wanted to anoint his dead body is so small by comparison with what she has. She has him, and she has him gloriously. Who could fail to miss his love for her? Neither she nor anyone else in her community. That's the answer. The whole community, apostles, disciples, family, first learn that Jesus is still present among them from her report of her experience of him. The story also shows us that there is more than one kind of brokenheartedness that can afflict us. When Mary Magdalene weeps because she cannot find the dead body of Jesus, what matters to her matters only because she has her heart set on this. She wanted to anoint his dead body. She weeps because she cannot find the dead body of Jesus. The loss of his dead body is not the loss of him. She lost him when he died. In other words, there's the heartbreak that comes when a person loses something of great value, the life of someone she loves, for example. But there is also heartbreak when she loses what matters only because she wants it so badly. You have a dream, you have a hope, you have a plan, and you lose it. That also is heartbreak. In the world of the story for Mary Magdalene, in the presence of the loving beloved, heartbreak of both kinds is redeemed in love. It is, isn't it? And then Eleanor writes, no, someone may think there is no redemption of her suffering in this story. Mary Magdalene is glad in her reunion of Jesus only because she has restored to her what caused her great suffering when it was taken away. But it would have been much better if it had never been taken away in the first place. She would have been better off if Jesus had never suffered and died. She gains nothing in consequence of her suffering that she did not have before. And so her life without that suffering would have been better. In the story, her suffering is for nothing. Some people would argue that's the case. What does it take to redeem suffering, to defeat evil? It is not always easy to say in the abstract. How are we to discuss this question? What looks perplexingly blank in the abstract has handholds for our thoughts when we think about the question in connection with the story. In the world of this story, perhaps it is not so difficult. In the end, Mary Magdalene herself would prefer her life with the suffering in it if she would be unwilling to lose what the loss of the suffering would take from her. If that is true, then for her, the suffering is surely redeemed. And that's the promise that somehow Friday, which was awful Friday when it happened, which was cursed, dark Friday, after the resurrection became Good Friday, that heaven works backwards. So now there's great hope for you and for us that what looks bleak, what humanly speaking cannot be redeemed, what rips your heart out, loss, estrangement, death itself, is all somehow in the providence of God, in the mystery of the cross, that which can yet be redeemed.
And a God who thought it would be a great idea to share that with us so that we would know we're not alone. I think for me, one of the holiest parts of this morning is multitasking, and that is listening to words, hopefully that bring hope, and then watching this thread of not only heartbreaks, but you praying for each other. For Bonnie, a husband leaving her and then getting diagnosed with cancer 23 days later. Like, how do you find God in that? And you're finding it right here. And for Gilbert, I remember the first time you and I met, and you showed me a video of your wife's funeral, and now you're navigating adult children. And Randy Pierce, your kind words, and just watching this community listen and get hope from hopefully what we're saying, but also with each other. It's just lovely. This is Good Friday.
So be with Jesus today at the cross, and get ready for Easter and hope. We have a really, really strange ritual. I've never talked about this. I'm not sure why I'm doing it right now.
I'm not sure you should.
But it's a little liturgy that Nancy developed with her friend Sue.
Susie Q.
That kind of confuses a bunch of different stories, and the way the kids are always super excited to get up on Christmas morning, that the Easter Bunny is really excited to get up on Easter, and Jesus says to the Easter Bunny, "It's too early.
It's too early, Bunny. Oh, come back later."
And for some reason, that always comes up on Easter morning. And to think of what must it have been like for Jesus on that Easter morning, that it was not too early, and that on Sunday, it's not just Sunday was changed. Friday was changed. Friday was redeemed. Heaven works backwards. And that it's possible that it wasn't just Good Friday. That because of the cross, because he was willing to take on himself all of the sin and the guilt and the suffering and the heartbreak, when we look back at our lives, it will have been Good Monday, and that Monday will be a good Monday.
And in the middle of that today, in the middle of the pain listed here on the side, it is okay and good to have joy. And many of you taught me that during these last couple of years. So embrace the joy that comes your way. It doesn't in any way diminish the pain that you're feeling, but it's that thread of hope that says this too will be redeemed.
Yep. And it coexists right alongside of the pain. And the hurt and the heartbreak of that which is of great value, and also that which is just your heart's desire and that you have lost and that is shattering. And in some strange way that we don't understand. Mark DeMel, I just talked to a friend who's now heading up Renovare, who talked about what a joy it's been to work together with you. Somehow, even in this life, I had lunch yesterday with a pastor friend, and we were just talking through family things. We meet each other in a deeper place when we meet in the honest acknowledgement of our sorrows and our heartbreaks and our loss and our failures and our sin. Somehow we meet in a deeper place there than if we just met in the triumph. And it's not just the empty tomb. It is first the cross and the empty tomb, and they're somehow together.
And our hope and prayer, and we will be part of this, is show up at church this Sunday. Man, first Easter in a couple of years where we can be there, be together.
Get your butt out of bed. It's not too early, buddy. Yep. And so we will be at Westgate.
We will be.
And Los Gatos, and rejoicing in the good news and bringing our pain, and look forward to seeing you there, knowing that you will be there. Thank you so much. You do not know.
Much love to you guys.
Don't know what you mean to us. So God bless you on this Good Friday.
Bye. Keep reading these.